ahead and get started. First, I want to thank you all for joining our presentation today. Today's topic will be leveraging outbound calling to bring in clients and grow law firm revenue. I'll be keeping your time front of focus, but I'll be as detailed as possible. This presentation will allow for question and answers at the end, so please feel free to send your questions in the chat and we will go from there. All right, and here, just did that change the slide? Let's see. There we go. So before I share some information about myself, I'd like to introduce John Doucette. Go ahead, John.
Hello.
He is our VP of Product
Engineering.
Sorry, that's a brand new title for him,
Yep.
so I'm still learning it. He's here to help me out with any technical stuff that I have here, and if there's any technical questions, he can help and support those answers. So I'll share some information about myself. My name is Elisette Davilla. Around here, I'm known as Ellie. I've been with the company since 2009, and my time here has flown by. I've held several positions, but I feel like the most critical position that I held was being the front line as an agent. What I've learned in all the positions that I've held here at Alert is the balance between clients' expectations, our programming, and what our agents need. With that experience in mind, I've learned to listen to the voice of our clients, and I look out for those opportunities on where we could be successful in our platforms, because in all reality, they all have to work together to achieve the ultimate success. Okay, enough about me. Let's get to the real stuff. What is outbound calling at Alert Communications? So at Alert, we understand that a lead, no matter how it's coming through the door, it's still a person looking for help. You must treat all leads like the phone is ringing, even if it is a digital lead. Here at Alert, we have the support around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have the ability to preset criteria, so we only dial out on the leads of your choosing. We can also set up hours of operation rules that apply to your firm's needs. We have a full integration with the industry's top chat vendors, whether that's a direct dial or a live transfer. We can support that with our outbound service. Now, moving on to our list lead feature. Think about the leads that you have sitting in your CRM that you may want to do something more with, but maybe you don't have the bandwidth or don't have the time on how to make that just happen. So don't think of us as just intake in this space. We can do a lot more. So some examples is we can call out and schedule appointments for you. We can call out and obtain certain pieces of information that you're looking for. We've had exercises where we're just calling out to update, their records, make sure that everything still is accurate and up to date. So here, let your imagination go and see how you can use and what your firm can benefit from Alert services. We also follow that up with tailored follow-up language and SMSs and emails that's customized in your firm's style. Branding the partnership. It's important. We do this by following up on unsigned leads. Again, it's just not intake. We can also send communication after we complete an action item. Like a retainer, if we sign a retainer, we can send a welcome package right after. It's not limited. We can do a specific use case. So if you want to do a call to action on a certain item, talk to us. We can explore on how we can use that capability. Voicemail offerings doesn't work for all, but for those people that do screen their calls, it's imperative that we leave the right message. So we secure that the right message is heard once we're done following the action steps of dialing out, making sure that they receive an SMS from us, making sure that they receive an email, and along with that comes a voicemail. Who is outbound calling for? People assume that we only service law firms. We do service law firms, but we really service our entire legal industry. We can support your campaign initiatives. We have firms that use us solely for one or the other, but we have other firms where we support them in both of these spaces. And the services here are different, and we tailor our style because you want to accomplish different things. So we are flexible in that area. The benefits. So the turnaround time to call out versus in-house. If you don't know this number, I encourage all of you guys to do a simple exercise to see when your team is dialing out. It matters. And if you find areas of opportunities, it's time for a change, whether that's just during your lunch hours or during busy times or after hours or the middle of the night. That brand reinforcement goes a long way. Imagine the person surfing the web. The first firm that's available that responds and is sensitive to their needs is who's probably going to gain their business. We must strike while the iron is hot. So if they have interest at that time, we follow up with an SMS advising them that we're going to be calling them and who we are by branding your law firm and who to expect the call from. So those are all things that are imperative to make that lead answer the phone call. Increased conversions. The numbers don't lie. We see that follow-up calls are something that has increased conversions all around. And these initiatives are not stopped with, just a phone call. We have lead stage and status awareness. What does that mean? What that means is that we have a system that's fully integrated with your leads. So we know exactly what stage of the process we're in with that particular lead. For example, if there is a lead where we've already completed the intake and they call us back, our intake specialists know that specific information and they can replay it back to the caller. The client now feels like they're well taken care of. They know who I am and what's the next step in that process. And the next step, you're the decider on what happens. The benefits. We've done this exercise time and time again. When we do one attempt, and that's an immediate one attempt, I'm not sure what a one attempt looks like when you dial out hours later, but usually on the first attempt, you reach 42% of your leads. If you follow that up with the text, the email, the phone calls, the voicemails, we have seen reach rates go up in the high 80s. So 75 plus is what our expectation is. We also have clean lead attribution, also known as source tracking. Our source tracking, whether you have 2 vendors or you have 15, we can track all of the leads that come into our system. And we will report back on all of the leads that we reached for that specific vendor and how many of those leads were qualified. This is all separated in our reports for your benefit. Customized reaching cadences. You may have a robust reaching cadence during hours, but after hours, that may not be the same instance. So a lot of firms use us just for their after hours process. And we follow the same workflow that their internal team does. We mimic the process if their process is working so that we can achieve the same results. And we monitor that with you so we can always make changes if something's not up to par. We have custom CRM integrated workflows. So a lot of people like to send us their leads, but they have certain key metrics that they like to keep on there. We would scope that out with John and his team to ensure we get the right pieces of information back into your CRM. And my favorite is the lead time zone awareness, is where our system recognizes that your lead is in a certain time zone. We make sure that we follow the reaching parameters based on that lead's time zone. So we're not calling them at early morning or at odd hours of the night just because it's early around here. Moving on to our pricing models, we are flexible in this area. We can go with our traditional per minute where we only charge you while we're working the lead, or you can do a more secured cost with an all-in cost and per lead basis. So the next step for you is to identify your firm and market needs. Look at what you're handling right now and see if there is a need for this space. If the answer is yes, the next step will be to sign up. From there, we'll develop an account strategy so we know how to handle your leads once they answer the phone call. From there, we'll move on to identifying all of your sources and your workflows so it's a strategy that works for your team members and for us. We're going to go ahead and move on to the question and answer segment. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to share? Don't be shy.
You might have to unmute some people.
Does anybody need to be unmuted?
Please go ahead and unmute everybody.
I have a question I was just about to type up, but since you suggested unmuting,
there you go.
I'll just voice it rather than I was typing away. Quick question. I'm wondering, how do your specialists handle call drops? So let's say either by the person disconnects, so they purposely maybe hang up, or there's some kind of whatever glitch, loss of signal, for whatever reason, a call is dropped midway, halfway through the intake, or whatever kind of conversation is ongoing. How does your team handle that?
So when somebody's in the middle of the intake and they're going through the process, we train all of our receptionists. They must immediately dial out that they have dropped the call. After that, in all of our intakes, we have logic built out where if it drops, there's an unsure option, and our agents will document that so that you know exactly where we dropped off on the call.
Got it. Okay, so your team would immediately call back, and then if they don't answer, then it's just sent over to our team.
Exactly.
Got it.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great one, and a lot that creates a lot of confusion
right
on these topics. So that is a great question. Thank you.
I mean, in-house it creates confusion. So that's I'm like, how does alert, right? How is someone outside of our own team? Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I recently just finished. That was one of the key objective for one law firm, and what we're going to add for that particular client is: did you complete this full intake with the caller on the line? And that gives a firm full transparency to what happened.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for asking. Anyone else have any questions? Don't be shy. Any questions that you may have, or do we audit our calls? So we do have an outside vendor as well as internal resources where we audit. I don't know. Do you know the exact percentage?
It really depends on like the day, because it's sort of like an amount that we have. And so we'll basically send a percentage of all the calls across the whole entire system. They're listening for tone, clarity, compassion, understanding. And as the QA team is actually looking for proper form of editing and working the intake itself. But I would say it's 10 to 20% most of the time.
Got it. And when you first start on service, we create something called a scorecard. And what we do is we listen to every single call type that you've set up. So for example, if you're if we're doing retainers for you, and we'll listen to why are people refusing to sign your retainer. And then we share that feedback with you in case there's something that we need to add to your account to answer a commonly asked question. So, and it's every single type of call. It could be somebody that declines to leave a message, a potential client, every single path that we set up for you, we're going to listen to based on your plan setup.
Yeah, it's just part of the onboarding. I think it's important to understand that as we're finessing your stuff going live, we take that feedback from every single call type and try to relay that back to you to see if there's a way we can reword it, see what the callers are struggling with, maybe with answering questions, or maybe even the agents are struggling with explaining, and we get them dialed in by the time you're up and running.
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions?
The only thing I'd like to add, I guess, as the tech side is that when she talks about workflow integrations, we have a lot of capability to allow, particularly with Outbound, if you have several marketing vendors that have some sophisticated workflows that you're depending upon for your marketing initiatives and looking at how your pay-per-clicks are working, we can actually work with one or more of your CRMs or outside vendors to capture the IDs of those different things, whether they're Salesforce IDs or other CRMs that do provide IDs when you create them. We can send them all the way through, like she was explaining before, so that you send us something in some state, and when we return it back to your CRM, if it's one that can handle updates, we can update the lead rather than creating another lead for you to clean up afterwards.
One other question that I have really quick is, as of now, you offer outbound calling only as your only form of communication. Do you guys offer like text messaging, reaching out via email, anything like that?
All one.
Yeah, our goal for the receptionist on the phone is to get the caller on the line.
Got it.
So once they'll try different avenues, and a lot of it's already automated for them. So they're not spending time composing the text messages or composing the emails. It automatically is triggered. But if somebody responds to that communication, it automatically goes in queue in front of the receptionist so that they can communicate back to the lead. But their goal is to get them on the line.
On the phone, even if they're being responsive through other forms of communication. Okay.
You can imagine how long it would take to communicate via email, and then it can get kind of,
Let's talk about this.
Yes, absolutely. You got it.
Let me ask you the specific questions the firm wants to have answered.
Yes. Is it a yes, no, or unsure? I can see that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for asking. Anyone else have any other questions? Good. Good.
I guess we could wrap it up.
I know. Well, thank you guys so much for allowing your time. I know time is precious. Everyone's busy, especially during the week. So our contact information is on screen. If you have particular questions or if you want to touch base with me specifically, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Hi. I wish I could see all of your guys' faces so I can just say bye. I feel like I'm just looking at the screen. Thank you all. Have a nice one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.